I have ADHD.
Yes.
I'm not a lady.
No.
Although, I have some ladies in my life whom I love dearly.
I, too, have a mom and a sister.
I have a mom and a sister and a wife, a loving wife.
Okay.
I think that there's a little caveat, a little asterisk that we've kind of been tossing around when we talk about ADHD in women that I just would love to get out of the way, like, right out the gate. Kind of what we've been chatting about today in preparation for this episode. Before we dive into, like, specific things, specific ways that ADHD presents in women, what's the caveat? What's the disclaimer?
Well, two things to say. One is that we're talking about ADHD in women because ADHD does seem to present very differently in women. And for the longest time, we only thought it presented in men. Well, really in boys. I think for a long time, we actually thought people grew out of ADHD, that it was like a childhood.
Grow out of ADHD.
The ADHD only got stronger.
No, we just learned to lie as adults.
So that's important. That's significant. And there are so many women who've been missed with an ADHD diagnosis who should have been able to get one and get access to support.
Well, it's the same thing we were talking about with autism, is all this research and this diagnosis criteria was based on a certain subset of the population.
Yep.
It continues to be inexplicably white boys, white wealthy boys. How is that? That's so coincidental that keeps happening.
Weird.
It just boggles my mind. Like, of all the different populations out there that we can
Once
study,
again, white boys? Okay.
boys, man, I feel well represented. I'm realizing now our listeners may not have put two and two together. I am white.
And one of the proverbial boys.
One of these boys you speak of. Yeah, it's just a compounding issue when we talk about neurodivergence in traditional diagnoses, because we base all of our research in kind of like, there's been very little evolution of our knowledge of these things, like formally, even though like our literal knowledge, like our understanding between the two of us.
So the population that we studied it in were like white boys. The tests that we developed were developed to test those white boys, and the norms of those tests, so how we standardize those tests and tested to make sure that they're valid, all about little white boys. So even the very official things that we have to measure ADHD will miss women. But here's the caveat. So women don't have a whole different diagnosis than men do. That ADHD is ADHD. There are a couple different types. There's inattentive and hyperactive, which I think we'll get into, and mixed. But in general, ADHD is the same. It's not that women have a different type of ADHD. It's that if you were raised as a girl, there were certain social expectations. And so you had to learn to manage your ADHD in a certain way that no longer fits this existing definition that we had. And so it got missed. And so here's what you might notice if you were raised where it was just missed and why it might have been missed.
I want to talk to me like 8 years ago right now. Okay, if you're listening, Price. I'm bad at math, but 2015. If you're listening, no, we're not trying to make everything about race, okay? These motherfuckers only studied a certain group of people, and life and social expectations are different between different demographics of human beings. White boys are expected to behave differently than women, or even black boys or brown boys, or just any other social group. And so the ways that these things present, even though our brains are the same, and the ways that these things impact our brains are the same, the ways that we're able to present ourselves in a socially acceptable way are vastly different between these groups. You numbskull. You fucking numbskull. Okay, so Price, get your head out of your ass, all right, and listen. Okay.
So, that's the other part of this caveat, is that while, yes, a lot of women, I think, are going to relate to this, a lot of people who just weren't allowed to the privilege of acting like a hyperactive little white boy are also missed in this. So a lot of black and brown kids are missed in this, even if they're also a boy. A lot of non-binary folks who didn't fit into either of those categories well or didn't view themselves that way. People who were raised in families where they just weren't able to act certain ways, or have dealt with certain types of trauma. Like, a lot of people get missed in these diagnoses, and it does come down a lot of times to culture and the way that we treat people. So this is ladies' night. It's for the girls.
Ladies' night.
But you might find yourself relating to this and not fall in that category of identifying as a woman. And that's probably because other things happened in your life that prevented you from being able to present in this one stereotypical way.